Today we are making a sock puppet, Polar Bear, because Polar Bear National Day is in February. Who knew? So you have a sock that is already cut, and it should be, I have it on the fluffy side, so I have it like turned inside out. And then you need to just decide where you want your face. And you're gonna notice that inside your kit, please be careful because I have a needle and thread in there for you. Whoop. You have, it's okay, you'll notice that I have a lot of lint on the stickery part of this. That doesn't matter. That's not going to affect anything. This plastic piece is gonna come off. You will need some help with this. You need to use the iron, and you need the iron not on steam, no water. You need it as hot as it gets. And basically what you're going to do is, if there is a little bit of stick left, it'd be great, but it doesn't matter. You're going to take your sock and you're going to decide where you want your nose and your mouth. Okay, so once you've laid your sock down and you've done that and you've figured out where it is, then you need to ask an adult for some help to iron on this nose and mouth. And so I have my iron here, and basically it's a 30-second no rubbing. So basically you're going to put the iron down. Make sure your plastic bag is nowhere near. I'm trying to do this in a spot that, and I'm just gonna do 30 seconds. And we'll edit out you waiting the 30 seconds because it's kind of ridiculous, but anyway. And you wanna put a little force, like it's okay to put some weight behind it. I don't have any parchment paper on in between it. I've just got my iron right down on the plastic, and I'm doing a heat transfer. I didn't count, so I have no idea if it's been 30 seconds. But I think that it has. I'm going to lift it off. I'm going to put my iron out of my way. I've glued my... And there we go. We've got it. And you'll see that the plastic is on it. You can let it cool a few seconds, and then you're just going to peel the plastic off. Ta-da! Then you can use parchment paper to give it a little bit more of a press if you want to, but it's okay. It's perfect. My nose is on. And you will notice the bag that I moved away has some thread and a needle in it, and the needles are tiny. I do apologize. And it has some buttons. So your next step is to sew your buttons on your polar bear. So you've got to thread your needle. Sometimes the hardest part is finding the end on these, which I think I did not find the end on mine. So I'm subsequently wrecking this roll of thread. I've made a mess. There we go. I've got an end. I've got like 3 ends, but anyway. And I did bring scissors over, which I cannot find. So you cut your thread, and you thread your needle. Once again, we will be editing out me threading my needle. Oh, I found my scissors. If you have scissors, the best way to thread your needle is, in fact, to have a nice clean cut. And light, which I don't have either. Hopefully your eyes are younger than mine, so you won't be having so much trouble. I did it. You're going to bring your thread down and double it. Here's a trick to tie the knot. You place the thread, the end between your thumb and your finger, wrap it around, and then roll it. You roll your thumb and your finger together, pull with your other, and it ties a knot. I don't know if you caught all that, but that is my knot, and that's a big knot. So what I want to do is I don't want to see that thread, so I'm going to go inside my sock puppet with the needle. You can actually turn it, you can bring it down a little bit, and I'm going to place the needle through the sock. I'm assuming most of you do know how to sew. You can use the hot glue gun for the eyes if you like, but it's really good practice to sew a button on to something that's a little bit more fun. When we're younger, it's a good time to practice. So you go into the back of the button, it's a button, and back down into your puppet. And it is a little trickier to do it on a puppet because you've got, you know, it's all layered and all that sort of thing. So I've got it where I want it. And now I can go back in, and you're going to go in several times to make it nice and secure. And each time you go in, you're going to pull the thread nice and tight. You want to make sure, see, I just went through the puppet. You want to make sure you're not doing that. It is tricky to do when on the sock puppet, but it's possible. So take your time and don't get frustrated. And the really nice thing about sewing is if you sew the button on the wrong spot, you can cut the knot off and you can do it again. And it won't leave a mark. It'll just, you know, be that practice time. And that's okay, because what they say is practice makes perfect. So that is how you're going to sew your button on. And I'm going to just quickly tie this off. And then I'm going to put my second button on. That one might be a little bit more tricky because I probably want it to line up. But again, even nature's not perfect. If you get the button in the wrong spot, you can try again, or you can have a polar bear with some eyes that are a little bit, again, for the knot, your 2 fingers, wrap it around it. Oops, you're holding it between your 2 fingers, wrap it around twice and roll it. You've got to get a little friction going and then pull. Okay, and I learned this when I was about 9 and I've been using it ever since. So you should be all about that age or older. So we're going to put this through, and I'm going to try and get my eye to be in line with the second one. I don't think I'm succeeding, but it doesn't matter because I'm happy either way. So I can see my eye. You could also mark with a little marker, like a tiny little circle of where you wanted the eyes, so that when you go to sew them on, you know where you're sewing them. That would definitely help make it a little bit easier. And again, you just have to be very careful. I keep going through the rest of the sock puppet, but as long as the needle doesn't go through, it'll be okay. Uh-oh. There we go. And back down. I have to say it is hard to do it when I'm trying to show you in the, I know that I'm missing the, I don't have a camera person. Darcy was my camera person, and now we're not in the same room together, so it makes it very hard. And once you've gone through a few times and it's nice and secure, tie it off. Now, when you're using buttons like this, it's not safe for a young child because the buttons sewn on by hand like this by us could pull off. So you don't want to be giving the puppet to anybody that would be putting something like this in their mouth. And there are my eyes on my polar bear. Now, of course, what's missing? His ears. And his ears are going to go up here. And we have these bits of sock as well. I should unplug. To do. So again, we have to thread the needle with some thread, which was so hard the first time. We can do this. Got my needle. I'm going to hold my needle down here and do this. Hello. So I have my needle threaded, and I'm going to attach the ears to my polar bear. So basically the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the flat side, and I'm going to do a running stitch. So I'm going to put my needle through, up and back, in and out. So it's just going in and out, and you'll notice I've gone in several times, but it's all attached onto the needle. Now I'm just going to pull it and just pull the needle, hopefully, and the knot's going to catch, and I'm going to gather so that it's pinching in my ear to make it a little bit more ear-like, and then I'm just going to sew back through all of the fabric again and tie it off. And tying it off just simply means that I'm going through and catching the thread so that it won't pull. Like it tightens up and causes a knot. So that's what I have. I have one ear already sewn on, and the other ear is going to come over to the other side, and I'm sewing on the back of the sock so my face is facing me, and I'm quite close to the edge, so it's okay if I go through all of the material. I'm going to go through the ear, like where I have the gathered, and through the sock, and I'm just going to keep going back and forth doing that. So I basically am going to do it several times, probably about 4 or 5, and then I'm going to check it out. Oops, I caught the material. It's okay. Just unhook that. Oops. I can't unhook it. One of the things you want to make sure when you're sewing is that you leave enough of a thread that you can work with it. If the thread is too short, you can't move the needle around. And this is a good length, and I can sew for a little bit, and then when I'm done sewing, I still want to have quite a length of thread so that I can cut off and tie off make the knot at the end. I know a lot of times people will leave just a teeny tiny little bit of thread to tie a knot. That's not possible. It just makes your life difficult. Don't do that. Make sure you have a good working thread so that it's got a little length so you can move it around. We're going to tie it off, like I've sewed this on quite tightly. So I'm going to go to the back of the bear's ear again, and I'm going to go through. So I'm taking my needle, I'm going through the material, okay, coming up, and you see I have that working thread. I'm going to take my needle now and go through that thread, and you can see it's through it, and I'm going to pull. That's a knot. I'm done. Okay, I've knotted it. It's so important to keep that working thread to tie that knot. Otherwise, you can't get the needle through the little hole, and it's all very confusing and not so much fun. And there you go. Don't be afraid to sew. It's a good skill to have, and making puppets like this is a good way to practice and get good at it, okay? And there's my little puppet. I've got to put him on and cue the song, 40 Years on an Iceberg.